Today, we're going to be talking about an issue that plagues many of us: dark footage. In this video, we'll be discussing tips for assessing low light performance in video. If your camera struggles in low light, it can lead to grainy dark footage. So what can you do to assess the low light performance of your camera? Tip number 1, check your ISO. ISO is one of the main settings to pay attention to when shooting in low light. It determines how sensitive your camera is to light, and adjusting it can help you capture better footage in dark conditions. However, increasing your ISO can also introduce noise into your footage, so strike the right balance to find the best ISO setting for your camera. To assess your camera's low light performance, gradually increase your ISO while monitoring the footage. Look for a point where the footage becomes too noisy, then back it off to a slightly lower ISO setting. This will help you find the sweet spot for your camera's low light performance. We recommend doing this for every camera you use so you know all of their limits. Tip number 2. Use a fast lens. Another way to improve your camera's low light performance is to use a fast lens. A fast lens has a wider aperture, also known as a low f number, like f1.4. Having a wide aperture allows more light into your camera. This can help you capture brighter footage in darker conditions without having to increase your ISO. Number 3, test your camera's dynamic range. Dynamic range refers to the range of brightness and darkness your camera can capture. A camera with a higher dynamic range can capture more detail in both shadows and highlights, which are all important when shooting in low light. To test your camera's dynamic range, shoot a scene with a wide dynamic range of brightness levels. Look for any signs of clipping in the highlights or shadows. If you can capture detail in both the highlights and the shadows, your camera's dynamic range is likely sufficient for low light shooting. Tip number 4, get more lights. This can be anything from a small LED to a full lighting kit. What you should get should depend on your needs and budget. Adding more light can help you capture brighter footage in low light conditions and improve your footage's overall quality. To assess the effectiveness of your lighting, try shooting in a low light environment, both with and without additional lighting. Compare the footage to see if the lighting has made a noticeable difference in the brightness and quality of the footage. Always test your camera in different lighting conditions and adjust the settings accordingly. And if you're still struggling, don't be afraid to invest in additional equipment. Always test your camera in different lighting conditions and adjust the settings accordingly. And if you're still struggling, don't be afraid to invest in additional equipment.